What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Speaking Sessions podcast. I'm your host, Philip Sessions, your public speaking coach, here today with Altaf Kapasi, owner of American Glass Company. And we've got a few things we're going to go into today. But before we get into what we're going to talk about, which we're going to keep it a mystery here because this man is on the move right now, making some big changes. Altaf, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me. My name is Altaf Kapasi. I'm the owner of Upstate Chapter. Shit, you're going to delete that, right?
You're good. You're good.
It's going to take me a minute to get used to that. But my name is Altaf Kapasi. I'm the owner of American Glass Company, which we recently changed over from, most people know me as the Upstate Shower Door and Glass Company. Main reason for the switch is, we do a lot of shower glass, which we still want to specialize in, but we've recently got into doing commercial work. And I think, changing the name it was a huge kind of setback for us, because our name just says shower glass. When people think of commercial glass and stuff, they don't think about us necessarily. So I wanted to change people's mindsets about when they think about me, more so not just shower glass, but just glass in general.
Mm-hmm. And American as well, right?
That's right. Yeah.
We joked about that offline. If you're not watching the video, Altaf definitely does not look like a white American. So there's that there. But no, it's great to have you on the podcast, man. And so let's just dive right into it. I know you're having to get used to this new name and everything. You're rebranding, and that's a hard time to navigate, I can imagine. I know I went through it a while back, but I didn't stay within, like you're staying in the same industry. I actually went from fitness coaching, so it was called Healthy Living Sessions, and I switched to public speaking coaching. So I still stayed in the coaching sector, but then changed that to speaking sessions. So it went from like all this health and fitness to all of a sudden I kind of went on hiatus for myself personally a little bit. And I just was like scorched earth on fitness. Like nothing was fitness anymore because I wanted to distinctively differentiate fitness, healthy living sessions from speaking, coaching, speaking sessions. And so that's kind of what I did. But I want to dive into what you're doing now and your plans are kind of going forward to help you differentiate between the two different company names as you're rebranding.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a huge change, and honestly, I couldn't have done it or especially gotten this far without my marketing team that I've hired. And they're the ones that really helped me make it a smooth transition and process. So it's something I'm able to handle, right? And all that back end stuff is honestly not my expertise. I'm more of a sales marketing, sales management kind of guy. So doing marketing, the back end stuff like that, I wouldn't have known where to begin. So having them, behind me, backing me up is really, really getting me where I need to be.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody the other day about this, and I don't know if it was just like profile pictures or what, but it's like when you change one thing, it's like, oh man, I got to go do Google My Business. I've got to do my Gmail accounts. I've got to do all my social media pages. There's like all of these spots that when you make one little change, you got to change everywhere else. So it's definitely a challenging thing, and having somebody like Ghost is definitely helpful to get you on the right path and just take care of it for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. They give me a whole list of things which I didn't even think about that I would have to do, right? Like bank accounts, shirts. I got to do my van, right? So all these marketing tips and stuff, and I just had spent so much money on marketing stuff from my other company that I just can't really use anymore, right? So or other name, not company, but that I can't use anymore. So it's tough in that aspect, right? I just feel like I would just threw a bunch of money away. But I think long-term vision and plan that I have, I think it's the right move to make.
Yeah, and it's a little ironic you're working with a company that also did their own rebranding like that. So they're very familiar with that, because that was, if I remember correctly, that's what Britton went through. Is he was like, hey, we want to be bigger than what we're doing now. We see this greater vision. We need to change our name. I know they had a little bit different situation than you have, which we're not going to talk about, but still they decided to go through that rebranding and change their name and everything in order to do that. So when it comes to the back end, obviously Ghost is doing that for you. But when it comes to the front ends of social media, some of these other front facing things that you are the face of, what are some of those things that you're doing to help change everybody from saying one name to another name to really rebrand yourself?
Yeah, so honestly, man, it's a lot back to like square one of networking, right? Everybody knows me as Upstate Shower Door and Glass and the Glass Guy, right? So now I just need to get that name away from them and still saying, hey, look, I'm still your Glass Guy, but I'm just under a different name.
Mm.
So I'm just going to keep posting and keep reminding people who I am, that I'm still specializing in shower enclosures and residential stuff, but I'm doing all glass work. So it's just going to be consistency. If you're not consistent with networking or getting a face to people in front of people, they're probably not going to remember who you are, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's the time we live in. There's consistent change being made and all that stuff. So if you're not consistent with what you do and how you run your business, it can really affect you in the long run for sure.
Oh yeah, you're exactly right. And so are you planning like at some point separating this into like almost two separate companies or just like two different crews? Like what's that going to look like as well? I mean, as you were talking about, you wanted to get not only just in like shower and glass, which would be residential primarily, but you also wanted to go into commercial with glass work there. So are you planning on running like those two, residential and commercial, as separate? Are they going to be kind of one and the same as far as like within like a division within your company? Obviously it's all under American Glass Company, but are you going to kind of run like two separate crews? Like, what does that look like from a customer front perspective? Like, if I come to you, how am I going to know like exactly like what avenue to go down, if you will? I try to bring out like kind of like how you're going to communicate all this stuff.
We'll probably be in the beginning and be in the same umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely be having two different crews. In my experience of glass work, doing commercial glass versus residential shower glass, it's two different ball games. They're installed set differently. They're silicone or caulked differently. So it's a lot more detailed when you're in the residential, right? More so than a commercial building. So I don't think I'll have a different divisions right now. I think it's definitely something that we could just do it within the same company. So shouldn't have to do any split of divisions or anything like that.
Okay, very cool. And so, how are you going about like communicating this, especially with your wife? I know y'all got married here kind of recent-ishly. I know it's been a little bit now, but still, it's not like you've been married for 5 or 10 years, so you got some season in the marriage or anything. So, how are you communicating that with your wife? Because I mean, I'm right there where we're almost at 4 years, but still, there's definitely times where talking through some of these things can be very difficult and can get a little strenuous as there is change and a little bit of instability, if you will, because of that change of not knowing exactly what direction things are going to go, how things are going to be taken and stuff. So, how are you navigating that conversation?
A lot of communication, man. She's actually helped me a lot in this rebranding phase. I'm not creative at all, so she's definitely been the one making a lot of those, helping me make those decisions, and she's up for it. She understands why I'm doing it and where the future lies for us. And honestly, it's just like any other relationship, right? Keeping business with business and personal. So long as we're communicating, talking to each other, and being upfront and honest of why and how we're doing things, it's actually been one of the smoothest things we've done as a couple, honestly.
Man,
Um,
well, that's really
yeah.
cool. That's good to hear.
No, it really, because like we've been married 2 years. My wife's only been in this country for 6 months now, so she's slowly getting used to things because it's a completely different world from being in India to being in the U.S. Right? So and it also helps us get to know each other better when we do things like this, right? I know now that I can rely on her when it comes to creativity, right? Something I lack in. And just the way she communicates, the way I communicate, right? So we were able to learn a little bit more about that as we were doing this. So it's a good thing about business, man. There's so many obstacles and so many things thrown at you at one time. And as long as you communicate with your significant other, man, you could literally accomplish anything, because that's all it takes is just not assuming they know what's going on or assuming what's going through your mind, right? Mm-hmm. And one thing I've learned, 6 months living together, we kind of knew this before before she moved here, but she's an engineer and I'm a business owner, right? We got two completely different mindsets, right? As a business owner, you could give me 10 to 20% details and I could figure out the rest, right?
Mhm.
Engineering side, they need 80, 90%, otherwise they're going to be asking you 100 different questions, right? And which isn't always a bad thing because you know exactly what you're getting at the end of the day, right? And
Yeah.
so it's good. I think it's a good combination. It's tough at times, but no, it's great.
Yeah, for sure. I know for me, I kind of have like that weird unicorn thing because I am an engineer, but then I'm also a business owner. So I kind of have both. And I can get in the details, but I'm not one that likes the details. And I had another engineer like, what? Like, you're an engineer and you don't like details? I'm like, well, And then, of course, in the 9 to 5, I don't want to talk about it too much about the outside business or anything. So it's like, well, it's just never been me. I guess I've been more kind of like a sales type of person or whatever. So it's just funny, but I totally understand where you're coming from with some people needing those details. And that's definitely a huge thing when it comes to communication that's so hard. And you have to figure out, what is it that that person needs in order to feel like you're communicating with them properly, and feel like almost in spousal relationships, it's even harder because now you both know each other very well, but you may not know what's going on in the business or in different areas that aren't your own relationship. And so sometimes you're just assuming because they know so much about you that they already know that when they really don't. So that's really cool to see that y'all just really communicate and just like proactively do that. And is there anything like as from a proactive perspective, or like, are y'all sitting down for like meetings there like every week or every day, or what does some of that look like to make sure that y'all are communicating everything? Or is it just literally you're just anything that happens, you tell each other?
Yeah, no, I mean, we try to, when I tell her there's a time and place for everything, right?
Mhm.
When we talking about personal stuff and I'm here, I'm in the office and working, and she has a question for me. If it's not business related, my mind's not there, right? So I straight up tell her, hey, look, let's talk about this after I get done working, so I'm in a better state of mind. And so that we spend a lot of time together in the evenings. We obviously eat dinner together, and then we go for a walk between about 7:15 and 8 o'clock. That was our summertime. I think wintertime we're going to change that up a little bit because she doesn't like the cold.
Yeah.
That's when we really talk and get deep, right? And it gets us out of our comfort zone because we're outside, so we can have these deeper conversations and get a lot out, whatever's on our mind. So I think that's very crucial to our relationship.
Yeah, that's good. Always setting that time aside, and then just like you said, like, hey, right now I just don't have the energy to focus on this, or hey, this is what I'm working on right now, and that's definitely a difficult thing. I know we've struggled with that in my marriage as well, where like, hey, I actually kind of get a little bit of separation where I'm in the shed, but then I'm just out here like kind of doing this thing out here, and it gets a little frustrating for my wife, and I can understand it. So I'm trying to find different times to be able to do things to be able to work around that, because we do have the little one, and that gets to be a handful a lot of times. So just trying to work through that and have those conversations and everything. So, but that's really good that y'all have that time there. And I think it's important for people to understand kind of how to navigate those, especially the marriage conversations, because it is difficult being a business owner. Your mind doesn't really shut off around that. And even when you're in those personal times, you're still thinking about the business is really kind of your baby and everything. So it's hard to get rid of that. So it's really cool that y'all do that. But I do want to take a pivot now and talk about this power panel that you were just on. So there was a local power panel that Justin Rogers actually threw, and you were on there. It was really talking with business owners through different things. And so I would love to hear kind of just a general overview, like what it was about, and then we'll kind of dive in from there.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience. I mean, fantastic. I think a lot of people got a lot of good information out of it. It was me and four other local business entrepreneurs on that panel, and we were just talking about what we did and our journey, right? And then we had an open discussion about where the audience would ask us questions, and we would answer them. Anything from leadership to personal life to business life, how to manage things, how to navigate through a few different things, which I think it helped a lot of people that were on the edge about what to do next, right? Whether it's personal or on the business side of it. So it was a fantastic event.
Nice. And so how did you feel about like before going into it? And then we'll talk about after in a
Yeah.
second.
So yeah, I mean, I was a little nervous. That was actually my first panel that I've spoken on to with a group like that, and then had people question me, throw that many questions at us, which was a great experience, I think, on my side as well. So I was just hoping that I get a lot out to other people, right? So like one thing I wanted to do after the panel, just so to better myself, I actually sent out an email or message to 5 random people that were there and asked them, hey, look, what did you learn from me? What did you learn from me? What could I have done better? Right. So it's all about growth. And that's one thing I love about being an entrepreneur and having this opportunity, right? I'm continuously able to grow, continuously able to learn, right? I'm never going to get comfortable being anywhere. Or doing anything, right? Because my every day is different. That's just something I really enjoy about being an entrepreneur.
And so I'm curious because, I mean, I get it being the first time being on a panel like that, being nervous and everything. And that's a lot of us. We get nervous when we go and speak in front of a group of people. It's a little bit different when you're on a panel, and you probably knew all or most of the people on the panel, and you probably knew a good amount of people in the audience as well, even though you still have those nerves. So what did you do to help kind of get past those nerves, besides the fact that you were going to have to do it no matter what?
Oh yeah, definitely. So, I try to, when I start looking around the room, and I think a lot of people are like this, right? They just look around and they scan the entire room like quickly, and that's when they get nervous, right? So I try to obviously look at the entire crowd, but in that crowd, I try to find the 1 or 2 people that I know, and I make direct eye contact with them. So it's just, I'm having a conversation with me and that one person, right? Then I'll slowly shift over to the next person, so the entire audience feels like they're getting my attention, right? But it was really the people that I knew.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, that's a pretty smart way to do that. Or find that if you don't have anybody in that audience, there always seems to be at least one person that has a nice, friendly looking face. So you can do that too. Look at that friendly looking face every time, and then start looking around the room after that. I think that's a great tip right there. I never really thought about it from that perspective, but that would make a lot of sense. Like, hey, let me look at a friend or a friendly face, and then start looking around the room. So it's not like I'm literally just staring at the one person the whole time. Especially if they're not your friend. If they're your friend, I think they'll understand. Like, oh man, they must be really nervous, or they just they think I need to hear this lesson every time.
Or if they're not enjoying what you're saying, right? They're probably making a face, and that's going to throw you out even more and make you even more nervous, right? So try to and that's why I try to get to these kind of things a little bit early, right? So I could talk to people, meet people, and that's the whole point, is to network a little bit too. So I try to meet somebody every time I go to one of these things.
Man, that's a great tip right there as well. I think a lot of speakers don't think about that, or just people going to these networking events or Q&A panels, stuff like that. Get there early so you can network with people. But if you're on that panel, if you're going to be on that stage speaking to the audience ahead of time, you can start to get some feedback and understanding of the audience, and you can actually use that as part of your answers or your speech, is stuff that they actually want to know about, because they're going to talk about that, especially if they know that you're a speaker. That's going to make them even more excited, because like, wow, a speaker came and spoke to me beforehand, especially as you get to these larger and larger events. I mean, ours is local, but it's still cool. Like, hey, if I get to talk to the panelist before he goes up there and speaks and everything. So I think it's a great tactic as well right there that you took. So you mentioned on the post side of it, how you went and asked for some feedback. Before we get into that feedback portion, I want to know, how did you feel after doing the panel?
I felt good. I try to analyze myself and everything that I do every day, every night, to see what I could have done better, how I could have improved. Obviously, there's some things I could have said differently and worded differently, which, it wasn't that big of a deal at that time, or it still isn't. But, I tried to, get myself better every day, right? So those little things right there is what's going to help me get where I want to be. So just self-analyzing really is a huge part of what I do daily.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good that you're doing that. I know there's a lot of speakers out there, or a lot of people just in general, as they start speaking, those, oh, I'm just going to speak and never look at it again, or I'll just do a job and then, never worry about it. If it's better, or if I get better, they just keep doing the same thing and then hope that the business grows. It's kind of strange how people do that. And I mean, I get there's times where you are just so busy, it's hard to go back and reflect. But if you never go back and reflect, it's kind of hard to grow and get better. so that your business can continue to grow, or you can continue to grow in any area. So that's really cool that you do that. But what are some of those things that you do to reflect and then actually implement on the things that you need to improve on?
Yeah, so like one thing I've realized, by making, commercials and stuff like that, I could go in a room full of people and be okay, right? But
Mhm.
once you put a camera in front of me, I get just nervous, right? So I've been putting myself in more and more situations like that to challenge and grow. And it's crazy how far I've come just in a year by doing that, right? So it's just little steps that you can do as you see, and you have to go back and see what you've done, analyze it, right? Because like a lot of times when you're in the moment, like when I'm doing an install, I'm just thinking about the install, right? And my guys clean up, and then we clean up and then leave. But like it's always good to go back and call that customer and follow up, because how are you going to know what you did wrong? Chances are, I've realized quickly that a customer isn't going to tell you that you did something wrong then at that moment, right?
Yeah.
So if you get them on the phone later on, say, "Hey, look, is everything okay? How's everything?" Right? And they don't realize that. A lot of people don't realize, like, glass doors are it's hardware, right? Just like on a storefront door, it's going to need adjustment after time. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are scared to ask for you to come back and do that warranty stuff. So it's also good to get in front of your customer and let them know, "Hey, look, he's here for me." You want to make sure everything's okay, but it also puts you back in front of their mind, right?
Yeah.
So talking to you about somebody else, it's a good way to send out referrals and stuff.
Nice. So I know a lot of us deal with, and this is kind of a little off topic, but I know a lot of us deal with service-based industry people, the trade, stuff like that, where they come in and do jobs, and maybe there's something that we expected, or maybe something didn't, isn't functioning right. Kind of like how the glass it has kind of needs to be tightened up, if you will, something like that, or readjusted. What are some ways that we as a customer can go back to the owner without sounding like we're complaining or being a Karen or something like that, and ask for some assistance on that, or just to give feedback?
Yeah, just be open and honest. Like you've had, and I'm hoping people, ask the right questions before hiring somebody, right? Ask your contractor some uncomfortable questions and see how they respond to it. If they get defensive, then they're probably not the right person for you, right? You need somebody who's going to be all ears, that's going to want to help you, right? And it just ask them, say, "Hey, look, what's my warranty, and what does it cover?" And like I have a 1 year warranty on everything, my workmanship and the hardware, right? So I try to make a call 2 weeks after, 3 and 6 months later, so that way they know, "Hey, look, I'm still here, that the warranty is still effective," and just remind them, like, "Hey, look, I'm human too. We make mistakes. Just give us a call and talk to us."
Yeah, I've seen a theme here in your life is upfront and honest about everything.
Yeah.
Except for that name, man. No, I'm just kidding. Like, come in the door, what? No. No, but I do like the name change and everything. I think it's gonna be great, and us being a part of Liberty Networking and everything. That's obviously gonna be a name that sticks out with Liberty and whatnot. And actually, that makes me think about too. And I'm kind of jumping subject to subject here, but you started a Liberty Networking chapter. So you went from being a guy that was kind of just a solopreneur, kind of doing your own, like going to networking events, kind of doing all this stuff solo. Now you've got a team and everything, but then you have a chapter that you run. And so you're leading this chapter, and y'all are what, about 20 to 30 people within the chapter now, or?
We got about 14, 15 people.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it had grown up to 20. I know y'all had at least 20 people in there, so I thought maybe it was all members. So, but anyways, like 14, 15, like that's still a good amount of people to be leading when everybody's just kind of there voluntarily. Nobody's being forced to be at this event. Now I know everybody kind of paid to be in the group, but how has that been with you leading this group of people that, they could be there and not listen to you, or whatever it looks like? How's that been?
No, it's been great. Actually, I didn't start this chapter. I just took over a year after we started.
Gotcha.
The previous president, and said he had too much stuff on his plate, so I took over when I think there were about 6 members total, including me. So we've doubled and almost tripled, and I enjoy it. It's a good way for me to be able to give back. There are a lot of young entrepreneurs in Liberty in my chapter. So I told them the day I stopped bringing them value is the day I'm going to step back. and step down. And they all, hopefully they haven't lied to me, but they all think I bring value to them, and they come to meetings, and I ask them, I'm like, what can I do better? What can it be worthwhile? Yeah, obviously you're paying, right? But what I tell them is, look, we're 14 of us. We're basically each other's. That's 14 extra people you have on your sales team, right? So when you have your 3 minutes to speak, bring some value. Teach us something that we didn't know before, so that way, you remember us, right? If somebody needs insurance, I know I go to Alex. If somebody needs life insurance, I know I go to Lauren. If somebody needs yard work, I go to Caleb, right? So like, it's these people not only that I've built this relationship with, but I've done enough business with them to know what type of people they are, and these are the type of people that I want to do business with, right? So it's fantastic. Like I've done business with probably 90% of the people in my chapter, which is even, a better way of when I go and recommend them or give them a referral, I know they're going to take care of my customer, right?
Yeah.
So it's been fantastic, and I've learned. Hopefully they've learned stuff from me, but I've learned a ton of stuff from them. So I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, man. It sounds like a servant's heart right there. And I like that you're also using their services, not that it's obviously required to be in the group or anything, but I think it is a smart thing. But on the flip side to that, I know we see all these Facebook pages, especially here locally, where people are recommending people that they've not necessarily worked with. And so if you've just heard a name and you're like, oh, I'm just going to throw them out there because I've heard that, I wouldn't recommend that. Now, like for instance, we'll go with Swamp Rabbit Moving. I've never used Swamp Rabbit before, but I know Chris, and I know a lot of people that have used his services. So I'm comfortable with recommending him because of that. So that's kind of a little bit of a caveat that I give, but it's because I've met with him. And so same thing within our groups. We may not actually work with them or have worked with them, but we've experienced other people that work with them. We've talked with them enough times and have built up this relationship that at least I feel comfortable recommending people like that. I know some people in these groups want to hate on people like that. Like, oh, you never even used them. You're just paying to be in a group and you just promote each other and all this stuff. And it's just interesting to see people get mad about that. But it's like, no, we've been investing time and building a relationship with each other in order to know, like, and trust this person, which is a huge factor in if you work with somebody or not. So it's funny how people treat that a little differently.
And it's like, people don't understand building these relationships. Yeah, you're just getting another person, but the person that I'm referring you to, I know is going to take care of you, whether we make a mistake or not. Right? Yeah. We're all humans. We're not robots running these businesses. We're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to, make mistakes and fix them when the time is right. And I've actually used Chris to make, I know that he'll make. I mean, he's never, knock on wood, never messed anything up that I've sent him, but. I know for a fact he's messed up. We've had discussions before, and it's about how you make things right. You own up to it, and take care of whatever mistake that you make, right? That's how you get that reputation.
Yeah.
And I agree. I see people all the time on social media say, "Oh, I've heard good things about so and so," but yeah, you've heard good things, but do you know the owner? Do you know his people? Do you know his service? Do you know what he can offer? Right. So I agree on that aspect of it, but. No, I anytime I post or recommend somebody, I know this person personally, right? And I've either used them or I've had several conversations to know that you will be taken care of if I recommend this person to you.
Yeah, which I think is so important. And so, speaking of that, when you mess up, I'm curious to hear a story from you, because I'm sure, like you said, we're all humans. So there's times where we mess up. And just to give you that credibility, especially being in that trades industry, notorious for being late, notorious for not communicating. It sounds like that's not you at all. Sounds like you want to be against that stigma. But what do you do to communicate, especially in a matter of when things didn't go right? How are you going about proactively communicating on those kind of things? And maybe give us a situation that happened that you can share.
Yeah. So when I first started doing installs, right, I realized that the 3/8 glass, they break easily. If it hits any type of metal, any type of tile, anything like that, it's going to crack or chip, right? So when I first, it was probably my 11th or 12th install, I was installing a door, and I nicked it on one of the tiles. and it was at the bottom of it, and I could have put a sweep on it and just kept going, right? But end of the day, right, if they could take that sweep off and clean, they could cut themselves. If they don't know it's there, it could really, hurt them, right? So I just tell the customer, hey, look, I've chipped this door glass. Do you want me to leave it in, or do you want me to take it with me? There's going to be a sweep at the bottom of it to protect it, so nothing, it won't hurt you or anything. So I was like, I'll get a new one ordered for you. It's going to take me so and so time. I'll come back and replace it. Obviously, no cost to you, right? So, and then just being open and honest with them, right? Even that, one like thing that people don't realize is after you silicone a shower, you got to let it sit for 24 hours. Don't touch the silicone. Don't try to fix something or, move it, right? Which surprisingly, a lot of people don't know. So just being open and honest with people, man. Things are going to happen. Just don't, like I had a customer where my guy was there and she didn't say anything, but she went and touched the silicone. She's like, hey, it's messed up. Well, yes, you need some time to dry. So being honest.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was 24 hours. I mean, I get that makes sense there. Obviously, I know, at least it was obvious to me that it doesn't just dry up right then and there. But yeah, I could see where a lot of people wouldn't know about the 24 hours, myself included there. So really communicating that is so important. And really, yeah, talking about that sweep. That was one thing that when you said that, in my mind, automatically, I was like, well, yeah, I probably would have said the same thing. And then you told a story about that, like, hey, I can install it. I'm going to have to come back later, or I just take it and you don't have a shower door. And you could have been like, hey, you could have been responsible and be like, hey, I nicked it. I'm just not going to install it, and say, hey, we got to come back later. And now they're probably going to be upset. But you gave them the option now, like, hey, do you want this? There is an issue. We're going to fix it. Or do you want us just to like not put it in at all? So I think that's cool that you gave them that option to communicate it with them about those options based on the situation that happened, which is so important that a lot of us don't do enough. And I really feel like there's very seldom times that you over communicate. So we can always work on over communicating in order to communicate pretty much effectively at the end of the day. But I didn't forget. I know I said I was going to talk about this, but you mentioned the feedback from the power panel where you text 5 people. I'm curious to hear about some of that feedback and what you've done to put some of that into practice, even though I know you haven't had another panel since then. So technically you haven't put it back into practice yet. But what was some of that feedback and how are you going about implementing it?
So, one thing people really love about me, that was family oriented. I think highly of family. Your family is, well, for me at least, is what keeps me together, right? And all family's family, right? They keep you there together, and they're there for you when no one else is there. So I talk about a lot about that because I don't want people at the end of the day to forget about who they are, where they came from, or the people that love them the most, right? We business owners, we get so sucked in the entrepreneurship in this business world. We think about our customers more than we think about the people that have been with us to day one, right? One little mistake that you make, that customer's gone, probably will never come back, right? But you still have to remember your family. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And that's probably why you're doing what you're doing, right? So that's something that everybody said that I did well on, is talking about family, reminding us that we do need our family, not to forget, neglect them. Yeah. Also, like with some of the stuff I need to improve on, right, is getting straight to the point. I think I was talking about something and then I would go on a tangent, right? And that was probably a little bit of my nervousness of just being short and sweet, and then letting them ask deeper questions. So that's definitely something one of my biggest things I'm going to be improving on. There's about 2 or 3 other points, but I like to take 1 or 2 things from each thing to improve on that and then go from there. But yeah, I think just being short and sweet, being done.
Yeah, I think especially those panels, that's probably a good thing. And I would say to what you just said, yeah, you were nervous. So that tends to give you you're going to ramble or you're just going to not talk at all. So you went to the rambling side, if you will. Obviously I wasn't there, so I can't say for certain on that. And then just getting that experience, just doing it more and more, you're just going to get better at it. So I think focusing on trying to be more straight to the point, more direct will be good, but just getting that experience overall is really going to help you out more with that. So it's really, really cool that you're taking that feedback. And I like that you also mentioned that, which is an important thing for a lot of people to remember that, yeah, take one or two things and work on that. Don't sit there and try and work on every single thing people told you to work on. Because sometimes people are just saying something and it's really not even that important to work on anyways. But secondly, which probably maybe the more important thing is that, yeah, you just can't work on everything at once. You can't expect to improve in 500 different areas really well. So focus on one or two and continue to improve there. So, yeah. But Altaf, man, this has been awesome. I know we kind of went in different areas and everything, but it's been really cool. Like, kind of see how you navigate conversations and really taking feedback and being a direct approach, being upfront and honest. If I had to summarize what your communication style would be, upfront and honest on every single thing, which we all can do so much more on and be so much better at. And it is an uncomfortable thing. So before I get into our last question, actually, I want to ask that question that's in my mind right now is, how did you get to this point? Because being upfront and honest about everything in every situation with different people can be challenging because it's uncomfortable. Let's face it. When you have to be upfront and honest about every single thing, sometimes that can get uncomfortable. So what did you do to get yourself comfortable with doing that at all times?
So honestly, I used to put myself, I still do, I put myself in a lot of uncomfortable positions.
Hmm.
If you would have asked me to be on a panel a year ago, I probably would have told you no. But as I've been growing as a business owner, I've been putting myself in front of a lot of people. So I'm constantly being comfortable and I'm constantly growing. So I think that's what's, helped me get there. Right. So,
Well, yeah, what have you done to help you be just like upfront and honest about everything? Like what did you like overcome to get there, and what made you decide to just be upfront and honest?
yeah. So I've realized, like when you make a mistake and if you don't talk to about your customer loses that trust in you.
Hmm.
Right. And it will affect your long term. Like especially when you go into like a subdivision, you make a mistake, right? And you don't own up to it or fix it. They're going to tell their neighbor. Their neighbor's going to tell us their neighbor, right? They're going to be like, how you don't use them. They're not honest with their work, or they don't, support their warranties or whatever it may be that they did wrong. Right. So the long term effect of making a mistake and not saying anything about it is a lot more harmful than short term is.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I appreciate you sharing that and everything that you shared. But let's get into our last question, which is, if you could only share one message for the rest of your life, what would that message be?
That's a good one, man. That's a real good one. There's a few things, but I think I spoke on it earlier about family. Don't forget about your family. Don't forget about your loved ones, the people that have always been there for you. Because at the end of the day, if the business goes away, I promise you, they're still going to be there. So whatever you do in life, however you ever take it, wherever it takes you, just make sure you don't forget about the people who've raised you, been there for you, and have taken care of you when you need it the most.
I feel like every business owner needs to hear that, because I've been guilty of that, where I get consumed with the business or consumed with my own personal goals that, hey, but it's for the family. It's for the family. Well, I forget about the family in the moment because I'm focused on the family 10 years from now. Well, we're not promised tomorrow. So you gotta find that harmony. And I know, Sam Kaufman's who I think of when I think of that. So the balance, to think of the harmony. You got to find the harmony within family and business and everything. But yeah, putting that family first, because that's typically our why as business owners. So make sure we put family first. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I was the same way 2 years ago, man. I would just work 16, 18 hours a day. And me being away from my wife for a year and a half, and then finally when she was here, it made me appreciate that time that we do have, right? So it was a huge lesson learned, and just got to be there, right? Because they much as you may not believe it, but they need you. They need your time as well. So
yeah, you're exactly right. So Altaf, if people want to reach out to you, follow you, the amazing message that you have, the great business that you're building and everything, where's the best place for them to reach out?
Yeah, so they could reach out to me on Facebook, Altaf Kapasi, or they could reach out to my Instagram, Upstate Glass, or even my Facebook at Upstate Glass. Both the names are the American Glass Company. And you can also give me a call at 864-721-3082, or even shoot me an email at info@americanglassco.com.
Awesome. Well, Altaf, once again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate you having me, man. It was a good one.